Richard Lewis, so proud of you, my dude. What a wonderful thing to wake up to on a Sunday. And holy moly, if I say guacamole, then that's two moles. Holy moly, roly-poly? No, I don't know. Well, anyway, huge news. It's all I've got perhaps a gigantic story to break tomorrow. I'm waiting for a second source on it. Think one of the most requested / demanded games in history. We'll wait and see if I can confirm the story tomorrow. Last night was an eSports Journalism Awards ceremony. Now, I'm not a fan of awards ceremonies. I think they're in general a place for people to jar their own farts and smell them. A place where speeches become more and more about pushing an agenda than, literally anything else. And maybe that's what Richard Lewis did at this award acceptance speech. But I think it was on topic. He wasn't up there talking about global warming. He was talking about the industry that he so clearly loves. And I've had Richard Lewis on the show before, and he's a definite solid follow on Twitter. Richard is a perfect example of somebody who puts integrity above ideology. Him and I probably don't agree on much politically, but neither of us cares. I hope that there's a mutual respect there. He's always gone out of his way to help me out with sources or feed me stories if I need it. And I've tried to return the favor, which I'll do here because woo-wee. Now, I think you're going to love this. So Richard has been doing esports coverage for a very long time. He's right up there with a guy that a lot of people know as Slasher, who gets a lot of TV interviews and stuff like that. Richard is a little more rough around the edges, but does high quality work. And last night, he was accepting his award, and he had this to say.
So anyway, what I just want to talk about is why this award's important. Not my award that I won, because that would be narcissistic. All our awards. Because we have to look after ourselves. Because there's these external media companies, they're looking at esports, and they want to write the history, and they want to tell the stories. And you know who I'm talking about.
If you don't know who he's talking about these big media conglomerates like Kotaku, Polygon, Waypoint, Vice, all these big media companies coming in and wanting to write the narrative in esports, which exists solely for them as another avenue to smear and write clickbait.
Polygon, people like that, Waypoint, the Kotakus, right? And their approach to writing about our thing is twofold. They've consistently embarrassed themselves writing pieces that expose their complete ignorance about our scene, lack of sources, and unoriginal opinions on topics we have talked to death for 20 years.
Woo-hoo-hoo! He did it. He actually named them and put them on blast. And right there, you see Doc right there, Dr. Disrespect, who has, of course, committed a few goofs and gaffes over the years. But his feud with a guy like Jason Schreier is public and well known because all they do is write junk about these big esports people. They don't care about them like those that actually cover it. There's a lot of people, we could compare this to like video games, our contention with video games and video games journalists. Look at the IGN morons. They don't care about you. They don't care about the video games. They care about pleasing their corporate overlords. And guys like Doc or even Tyler Blevins, Ninja, these guys screw up. That's, of course, common. Everyone does. But when you're Ninja, all the articles you get are, why won't Ninja play with a woman? He doesn't like woman. All they do is serve to create controversy when there isn't any, or profit greatly when there is some, which I guess I can understand why some of these esports celebrities don't like Kotaku and Polygon, because they're never writing anything good. They're never celebrating anything. They're just laying in wait for these guys to have an oopsie.
The second has been to write hit pieces and smears, mostly propagated on half-truths or out-and-out lies. And it's about some of you in this room. Give them hell. They write about it because they think if they get 1 or 2 or 12 of you out of the way, they can get their friends in, get their cronies in, take over and gatekeep our industry.
He's right. That's exactly what they want. They want to be the singular source for esports news, even if they provide some of the worst takes, some of the most hilariously unchecked articles, some of the sourceless garbage that they continue to put out. And Richard Lewis goes so far as to give us some hilarious specifics.
So let's compare and contrast. The reason I'm stood here is probably one story. I wrote a story about a great guy, one of our best ambassadors, Rick Fox, who was receiving racial abuse while he was in Echo Fox. It's a disgrace what happened to him. I love that guy. We all owe him a great debt. That's the kind of story I want to break, and that's the kind of story I want to fight for. Let's have a look at some of their greatest hits from the mainstream games press. Well, outside of Cecilia's work, it's not great. There were the lies that they printed about a CSGO major event being a Trump rally because the journalist misread a sign. Great work. What about the time they all rallied around to stop abuse of a female Overwatch player? That didn't exist, which they would have found if they'd done a cursory fact check. And of course, there's the annual hit piece they write trying to cancel any one of you. Oh, what about that interview they did with the world's most popular streamer outside of a toilet? One throwaway quote still haunting him today. It's an outrage.
Stop! They're already dead. You can see as the camera pans the audience, there's a lot of ugh, because honestly, Richard Lewis is up there speaking truth to power. And that's exactly what he's doing, because love him or hate him, and I know most of you hate them, Polygon, Kotaku, and Vice, they've got all the money. They can buy or sell any of these journalists, or they have such reach, they can just create stories that flat out don't exist. Remember when they covered the female person that never existed? That was one of the most hilarious garbage fires I've ever seen in my life. This is what you get from clickbait media when they're desperate for likes and retweets. They only can write garbage because nobody looks at them and says, hey, this is somebody with integrity. The only person, and I'm serious, that I can think of at Kotaku, now he does mention Cecilia D'Anastasio. I don't know what their relationship is. I've seen some pretty hot takes from her too. I don't know. I'm not as familiar with her work. She does write a lot of kind of social justice-y articles. But Schreier, even though his articles are dry now and all he really writes about is crunch, even though we all know crunch exists, and I have a lead that he's going to have another crunch is happening, everybody get outraged article coming out this week. We'll have to wait and see if that lead is true. But Schreier at least has some integrity, even if he is somebody whose opinions I find vile. I don't think he would willingly or knowingly write lies. You can't say the same for almost everyone else in that industry who will knowingly tear down somebody on rumor or speculation, and by the way, make no corrections. Remember when they wrote all that articles about ableist words in a Nintendo song or something like that because they couldn't understand them? And then they didn't bother to look for the official lyrics, so they just wrote that it's an offensive song, even though they were dead wrong. This is because they're so desperate for clickbait, because nobody respects them and nobody goes to their website religiously other than those that are looking for their own ideologies to be reinforced, but those numbers are shrinking.
So anyway, despite this, I want to welcome good journalists from a non-esports background into the scene, because there are hundreds of stories every year that must be told to make our industry better. I stuck it out for 15 years because I care. I care about this industry, I care about everyone in this room, and I care about everyone at home, and that's why I want to make it as best as it can be. Thanks so much for this award. I love you all dearly. Thank you.
Absolutely Savage by Richard Lewis. Certainly probably wasn't making any friends there, wasn't there to make any friends, but used the opportunity to say his piece, and he's probably right when he says he'll never get another chance to do it, because public or private, there are connections that exist in the background, a web of schemingness, scuzziness that exists in the game's journalism field. Not everybody, but certainly some. And it's difficult to tell them apart because they all work in lockstep with each other, which is why I respect Richard Lewis so much, because he could very easily toe the line, and he knows full and well that speaking out against these people will have a detriment. This is somebody that had people working on hit pieces about him and all sorts of ridiculous stuff. He knows what these folks are capable of, and they'll take any opportunity to smear the guy going forward. By the way, I'm going to leave his Twitter handle in the pinned comment below. You should definitely follow him. He's always a good source of information, as well as just overall entertaining takes. I hope you enjoyed this video. Congratulations to Richard Lewis, and I look forward to more hot takes by you.